It still looks like we're squished.
It looks like we're squished.
Yeah, unless I sit on this chair facing you, then it's sort of this, I don't know.
On this chair.
You can't turn it this way?
But, I could
Or
try,
will we
but see, it doesn't adjust.
For the viewer, you mean?
Yeah, for the viewer.
Well, we're looking at each other. I'm confused.
Right, but see, it keeps going. It goes like that.
So they'll all be going like this?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Confused.
Right, but see, it keeps going. It goes like that.
So they'll all be going like this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, welcome to the People Awakening show, everybody.
Your head will be sidetracked.
Yes. They can change their phones. Right?
Oh no.
It's just that when I go to replay it. All right. Hi. Too funny. Welcome to Sidetracked.
Where you only see a side of our
Why is there a sad face?
Is it on?
Yeah.
We're live?
We're on.
We're live.
We're live.
That's why there's a sad face.
God. Hi.
So are we live?
Yep, we're live.
We are.
Yes.
Awesome.
Jane Anderson Ross is here today. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
We've been wanting to do this for a while, and we're calling this, I'm still trying to figure it out. This is a test run, but we are live. All right, so give us some grace for anyone passing through. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Jane Anderson Ross, and we are talking about spiritual awakenings. And we're here to just have a candid, natural as possible conversation about spiritual awakenings, and just wanted to hear about your experience. You were on the Buddha at the gas station interview. He's done more than 500 interviews.
Yeah, I think he's 6 or 7. It's Buddha at the gas pump.
Oh yeah, Buddha at the gas pump.
That's okay. B-A-T.
Sorry about that, buddy.
G-A-P, so it makes it easier to remember.
All right.
But the idea is just that, we're everyday people, 9 to 5 people, but in an awakening consciousness. So when we go to, it's like Buddha's going to work 9 to 5, he's pumping gas, he's getting his groceries. So it's like ordinary awakening people.
And that's always...
We're being ordinary today.
Yeah, we're being ordinary and not so ordinary ways. Yeah. That's something really that with my awakening that I've always, tried to work on is how do I integrate my awakening into like the everyday, I've heard you call it before, like the 9 to 5 life. Or as I sometimes reference and a lot of people reference online as like the 3D. How do we integrate this awakening, this wonderful experience that we're having into those everyday lives? And I'd like to just start off, I know like with your interview with Bat Gap, Buddha at the gas pump. You had, I had said when I had watched it, I'm like, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So, and kind of like, that was in 2015, correct?
Yeah.
So that was the last the interview that I'm referencing today. And kind of like, we kind of talked about, why don't we talk about today and what you're doing right now? People can go to janeandersonross.com and find out more about you and, all the stuff that your bio, for example, and talk about that too. But like, why don't we just talk about today, what's going on? What are you feeling about where is spirit leading you today to talk about?
Well, I like what you said about the 3D and how to incorporate it. And I think that our friendship is a good representation because for the most part, when we get together, we laugh a lot.
Yes, we do.
And so one of the wonderful repercussions of the long journey of awakening, because it isn't a snap deal. That's just the beginning, like you said, tip of the iceberg. But it comes out in joy, right?
Yes.
That's the natural expression of it, is love and joy. And maybe it seems kind of childlike, but it is. And the thing is, even a child could know about awakening. And most children appear to be awake, right?
Yes, yes. I strongly born enlightened. We're born awakened, and then we're born also into the program of whatever program that we're in at the time. So it's almost like going back. And didn't Jesus say something about, like, Jesus in the Bible, who was, I feel like, a master, ascended master? He said, how do you get to heaven? Through the eyes of a child, through being like a child. And it just makes sense. And it's actually so simple. And for some reason, we've made it so hard.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that, my awakening was at its pinnacle in 1988. I was 26. And I really had no reference point for what was happening to me. I would never have thought the word enlightenment, but something was happening. And I had a personal relationship with God. Like, I could see some synchronicities. I had some sense of ESPs and whatnot, but I just remember at some point wondering, why is this happening to me? It's like I'm so simple, I'm so ordinary. I'm just a mom with 2 little kids living near the farmlands, and all of a sudden it came in my mind. The reason is because you are so simple, because it's in the uncluttered mind that I come.
Yes.
And I thought that makes so much sense, because all of our filters are constantly in the way. Right away we're forming judgments. The minute someone says something, judgment, that's not true. They're weird. I've got things I've got to do. All these things are in the way, but when you're in that present moment, and people try to get into the present moment, but for me, I was in the present moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 26. I think that's still pretty young. Maybe if you're 26 today, you might be thinking a little differently. The world's different, but that really is the most important thing.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it reminds me of something that my friend Ann Knapp says all the time. She says, within the simplicity becomes the expansion. And you think of it, it's so true, like you said, because look at how we try to learn how to meditate and quiet our minds and just let this flow in, and surrender our minds and just let this flow in, and surrendering. And not to sidetrack you, but I'm going to sidetrack you a little bit.
Do it.
Let's
ready.
Just and go to 1988. That really, when I was meditating before our meeting today, I was 1988 seemed to also be like, you hear like some people, there's a conspiracy theory that the world ended in 1988, and which is interesting that your awakening was 1988. One of my stages of awakening was in 1988. And it was also during a time where there was this Christian revival. I don't know if anybody listening remembers that Christian revival in the 80s. There were big tents, Christian tents, and people were coming in droves, and they were being born again. And it was like in a different form in a way, because it was under possibly like a religious, but not, because people were coming together, and like you have that 100 monkey theory possibly, that, we're all expanding and we're all, getting this downloads. And that was really, I couldn't believe it when I was listening to your other interview earlier today, that I started listening to it again from last night. And I was like, oh yeah, 1988, that was, I remember like that being a reviving time for me, spiritually. I was a teenager. We all were at this camp, church camp, and we came together, and people were just crying and hugging, and so much love in that place, and that I will never forget about it. And I feel like that was, possibly similar, because we talk about our paths are quite similar.
Yeah.
We're both sound coaches and sound therapists, and we have different things, but different, complement each other as well, as we have done different things in our awakening journey, but also the same, which I thought was like, wow, that is so cool. But 19 online still has, maybe you were born in 1988. So, but going forward, so it started in 1988, and
what I would say was what I remember is, probably younger than a teenager, was Woodstock. I didn't go because I was only 10 or whatever, but I remember like seeing that and seeing people and being aware of people expressing themselves, and my mom was sort of changing and going through the come on ma, burn your bra phase, and being free, especially women. But around 88, the one thing I do remember, and I think there was a harmonic convergence in 78, but I think there was one in 92. So I don't know if I got the dates right, but that was happening, the harmonic convergence. You remember that?
I would love to hear about that.
Well, I don't know much about it because I was busy raising my kids, but a lot of people were coming together. And I think in 92, I came together with a couple spiritual ladies, and we just did what felt right to us. We rang in the bell. We knew something was happening. We actually all had bells. We had some food. We said some prayers, whatever our thing was. I don't think it really matters what your thing is. It's just an overlay, if it's Christian or if it's not, that it's just an overlay, because it's important to people. But I think that, you just have to find what's the verbiage for it, and what fits with your time.
Yeah.
And that works just perfectly, because in essence, it doesn't have words. The essence is just love. It's just purity. It's just laughter. And it really doesn't matter what the overlay is. So I look at it like there's a million different languages, and each generation will have their own language and their own terms. So I'm always trying to keep up to date with everybody. What's the language? What's the, how are we expressing what we might find to be awakening?
Yes. Oh, I think that's a wonderful point. I do think of, like I said, we were born pure, awakened. Then we're born into these programs. And we're programs of religion, maybe programs of however our family brought us up, and then we were on this journey to kind of like put all that aside in a way, right? So love can kind of come in and shine in and just take over.
And what is your unique expression in it?
Yes.
For me, I didn't have time because I had like a 2-year-old and a one or 2-year-old, 2 or 3-year-old. And so I wrote. That's the only thing I could do, is I could write, I could jot things down, I could fully contemplate what was happening.
Yes.
And I had little children that were little enough that I could occupy them, and they were occupied in play. That gave me the time to have my inner world alive, and to be able to write it down and express it that way. So that's really, starting at the basics for me, and that worked beautifully. That was my experience. It could be something different for someone else.
Yes.
Music or sounding or...
So what I'm hearing you say is that finding your own unique expression is that kind of like saying, we're all part of the same love energy, that God, that source energy, that love energy, expressing it in different ways?
Yeah, it ignites you but you think of God, like I think of it as it, because it became so beyond anything that, but for the sake of the audience, I always use the word God because we all know what we're talking about. So it's almost like it knows what you are. You're already the poet, and in my case it became a poet, and that's what I wrote in my blog about. Someone else's case, it could be songwriting. Someone else, it could go into family life. Someone else, it could be a teacher, but it is all of those things. And it is a teacher because it has this beautiful high intelligence, so simple but so profound that it can reach anybody at the simplest level, and it can also reach the extremely profound or people of science. It's in science, so it's everywhere. There are people that, like Deepak Chopra, and he was on Batgap, I think, and he was involved in the TM group, which is where the Batgap originated from. But, he has explained it and expresses it through all of his science, and I love listening to it because it fits perfectly, it fits mathematically. Yeah, and it's delicious. It's just as delicious. It's just a bunch of different flavors.
Yes, and we all know we're all different. We're all different frequencies, right? And everything's about sound and vibration. What I thought was cool about your interview with Batgap was you were talking about how you were looking at a cup, or you were looking at this like a pencil, and you were just like, oh, I feel one. Like I could see the love in everything. Which is pretty amazing, and even struggles we've had, and that's a whole different show. But have, just molded us into these loving beings, or, we're already love.
I mean, you can do it right now and just connect. You can feel it. You can slow it down right into the heart, or wherever you feel it. And things get quiet, they get simple, and yet they have the beauty of what's unique about it. And I have a little story about when I tried to connect with somebody who was very different in their genre. And that's happened all through, that happens every day because we're all so different. And, but this was a man who was a Zen teacher, and he had Zen this doesn't even work, but Zen down pat as far as I can concern. He was Mr. Zen.
Zen down pat.
Mr. Zen. Of course, there's never a down pat with Zen. So coming from the place that I came from and learning my expression was, we're all connected. So let's just get real and be what we are, connected.
Yeah.
But with Zen, he just kept, in our conversation, he would just keep broadening it. Every time I would try to pin him down, he would just broaden into his Zen perspective. And I said, well, what about this? And then he would Zen perspective me. And, finally, I just gave up. We just kept laughing. And later on, we were both in a workshop, as a matter of fact, and I talked to my teacher, and I said, this is what happened. Can I ever pin down a Zen person? Like, is it possible to just let's get real? And I said, well, I said what I said, he said back. We went back and forth. Then, all we did is laughed at each other. So I said, where are we connected? This is ridiculous. He said, in the laughter.
In the laughter.
You get where I was going.
I love it, but I am interested.
It was God laughing at God. It's like, go ahead.
Keep going. Let's go, banter. I love it, but I am interested.
It was God laughing at God. It's like, go ahead.
Keep going. Let's go, banter.
Try to connect, and it's gonna be what it is.
Do you mind giving me an example of what you would try to pin him down?
I honestly can't remember because I was so impassioned about it because it was a challenge. It was like, okay, let's see, so what is Zen? I don't even know. I haven't really studied it, so I can't tell you what he said, but I just put myself out there come on, what about this? I can't remember because it was so long ago. But
Interesting.
he had his perspective about it, and just kept broadening it with his Zen way and
His
teaching
Zen
Zen
way.
philosophy.
When I hear Zen, I always feel like, like relaxed.
Yeah.
Is that like just like in a great space and kind of floaty?
Yeah, but
No?
there's a whole
There's a whole
science.
Science
There's a
behind
whole discipline to it, which doesn't allow you to hold yourself steady, it seems, and pin yourself down. And I don't want to get in trouble with Zen people because I don't know enough about it. But
if anyone knows about Zen out there,
really not holding on to everything is looser and looser and looser and looser. And so, some people who are Zen practitioners, I highly respect them. And I think it's beautiful because all of these approaches are all going toward the same thing. And for me, I was lucky that I just popped.
is it kind of like possibly, and you don't have to be obvious because you don't study it, but what popped into my mind was the art of detachment.
Well, for me, I would use the word surrender.
Surrender.
Because I think that was the most pivotal place that allowed me to arrive where I arrived, which isn't even something definable.
Yeah.
I try to define it through being alive, communicating, loving, living, writing. Anything I do is my communication now from what reverberates from that moment in time.
Oh yeah.
So surrender is a big topic, and I write a lot about that on my blog. It's the complete emptiness of any desire that you could ever have, with just the tiniest little bit of desire, because there has to be something that sparks you into oblivion.
Yes.
Because we're all something. There's something tangible in everything.
Yes.
To get the untangible, there has to be a little bit of tangible, and I think that's God's delight, if you want to put it that way. That all the little tangiblenesses are God's delight, and when you're awakened, you may start to feel those little delights about things that tickle you.
Yes.
That are so ordinary, but they're so extraordinary, because now you can see the extraordinary in the ordinary, and that's why you laugh and you have fun and you're light. And maybe a lot of people think that I'm aloof or goofy, but join the club if you
I've
want.
always been the cute little weirdo.
Join it. It's a heck of a lot of fun, and it ain't easy too. Let me tell you.
Exactly.
It ain't easy. So there's nothing left to do but eventually laugh when you can, and enjoy.
And enjoy and see the coolness and everything, I guess, for lack of a better term, but just like oh my. And some of the things that might have happened that weren't so great.
Oh yeah. A near-death experience about a year before that with the birth of my daughter, where I lost a huge amount, like another minute or so I've been gone.
Oh my goodness.
A huge amount of blood and hemorrhaging, and for the year after that, it was pretty dark, just taking care of children that were 1 year apart and being anemic and surviving, a death. So it was after that I started to awaken, and it was very difficult, and I forget what led me to that, because I went into my little dark place. You were talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about like sometimes in order to see the good we learn to appreciate the darker times in
the
life.
Past lives.
And how you had the life review.
Yeah, so I don't remember having it when I was, I probably didn't even have time to remember, because suddenly I had a baby, suddenly I had to recover. I had a 1-year-old. But I definitely went through some kind of change where I was able to see everything that happened, like you said, in my life, and why it happened. And it was perfect. All of the things that were difficult, it's sort of awful. And if that didn't happen, that wouldn't have happened. And if I didn't go through this, then that wouldn't have happened. Now add that to all your past lives. that you do like a life review also on past lives, because that's what happened to me. Not that that has to happen for everybody, but I also was seeing all the past lives and how they were all connected, how they led me up to here, and it's
is cool.
It's mind blowing. So like it's a little hard to grasp that. It's challenging, but everything always falls into the perfect place for what's good for you, and that's what's important about it too. You know, there are people that you know maybe talk about Kundalini rising, but there's always a perfectness in all of your experiences, so you have to come to this place of trust, which lives in the house of surrender.
Yeah. Oh, we know that, like you said, when you review, you said, wow, this is cool. Oh, if we know that, and that's emotions, and the fact that we have two that and you can, of course, obviously tell me your opinion, but we have love, the fear, you know, and I see those are the two emotions, love and fear, which is the polar opposite of the fear.
Mm-hmm. I wrote one of my blog poems called "I Am." That happens outside of that, and I can tell you that in one part of my experience, I was, and I was told ahead of time that I would be apart from all of that held feeling for just a few days, 3 days.
3 days, that's interesting.
3 days of darkness thing. And I was like, okay, I don't know.
3 days of, like,
experience of what felt like pure was created by man. It's like all of the darkness, if it could have a form.
Wow, that's
but to travel
amazing.
Through that on your own and see where you wind up, not knowing if you'll ever get held again. It was like it just suddenly, I called what happened first meeting with God the explosion.
Yeah. And
because of science, there's an equal and opposite thing called like an implosion. So I was now in the implosion place, where it was completely dark, where I was completely stripped of everything, not knowing if I'd ever be held again, although I knew that I was always held. So that's just like one of the trips that you take, no drugs involved. It's just a real trip, and I haven't heard anybody explain that before, but you know, when I came out, I understood. First of all, you're like, why do you have to go through that? And I think it's still a mystery to me. But you go through those really hard, fearful things. And then once I came out, I did know assuredly that would have been because my inner knowing told me that that's the hardest thing you'll ever go through. And that's sort of the archetype of all fear, all hate, everything that you could imagine that you could be afraid of, going through that initiation, inner initiation. And I don't know if it has to do with Kundalini for people that, you know, are involved with Kundalini rising things or yogas or whatever they do for that. But I mean, those things are there. So yeah, you're still afraid because the idea afterwards is to keep peeling away that fear and dissolving it in love, because you're dissolving it by letting go of yourself in any way that you're in the way. And fear is in the way of
fear
love.
Is in the way of love.
It is.
Yeah.
My goal is to get out of the way so that what I received, I can share.
Yes.
Like I want, it can't help but be shared. So it's like, get me out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, do you.
Yeah.
God.
That's why I'm glad we're doing this.
Because you know what you're doing. I know my little self is just going through my day.
Right.
And I'm glad that's all I have to be responsible
and we can put
for.
so many layers of us in it, right? Oh, do I have TikTok makes it easier because we can put a filter on either, right?
Well, one of the ladies that cut my hair when Mom let me find so bad for you because you always march to the beat of a different drummer. You were like, why aren't I fitting in? Like I just don't feel like people are really connecting with me, and I feel very matter of fact about a lot of things, and she's like, I was just hoping that you would grow up and like enjoy that part, being somebody that marches to the beat of a different drum. We need that.
We need people who march to a different drum, right? And march to a different drum, right? And I think, does anyone else out there too feel the same way sometimes? Like, just like, we march to our own beats. We're not worried about being in with the in crowd, right? And that's okay. We can be like celebrated. That can be celebrated. About you, and your uniqueness and your wonderfulness can be celebrated.
Yeah, and if you meet it in people, if you're going through any kind of change or awakening that you're aware of, but just, the love will help you get through it, but you'll understand that you may seem a little different.
Yes.
In some way.
It used to bother me so much for being called the little weirdo and the cute little weirdo and all this stuff. I mean, and I was also called mom at a very young age. I was 10 years old, and the classroom, like I was mom in the classroom, and I'm like, okay, and you kind of have that same mother energy too, and almost like we were just, I just remember being on the bus and everyone was comparing, oh, I have 10 TVs in the house and I have 3 and blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, we just have, I'm like, but things aren't what makes people happy. And I'm like telling people this at 9 years old, right? And it's like, you are a little weirdo, right? But we were kind of just.
A few years later, I'm doing
yeah.
But I don't even think that way, because it felt more to me like grace. It didn't feel like I did anything.
Yeah.
That's what's really important, is I am not doing anything. And when I saw people trying to understand intellectually, I got into studying Jungian philosophy. I tried to understand where this all fit in everyone's lives so that I could be a better instrument. And it was so complex that it really didn't fit anywhere, because I was nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I'm living in omnipresence, and yet people are defining, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so simple. Stop. It became very, very complex. If you need to know what's there, it comes. If there's a purity of intention for a question, then that question will be fulfilled. The fulfillment is always there.
Oh yeah.
We become vehicles of fulfillment because we've lived being fulfilled to the capacity that we can. It's an infinite measure that you can't even measure, and I wouldn't even want to. So it's easier to not, like you were talking about those details. I'm like not good with that, because I'm better at surrender than the details.
Yes.
But if the details need to be fulfilled, they are fulfilled, which is so amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
So you're at you've let go completely, and yet you're fulfilling perfectly.
You've let go completely, and then you're fulfilling perfectly.
You're fulfilling your life and your instrument.
Just
perfectly.
let it go, right?
And that's mind blowing too, and heart blowing, because you're like, I don't have to do anything, just be me.
Wow, isn't that a great?
People are like, I know there's a lot of people out there. There's something called purple washing that Eileen Kuzik, who teaches the biofields, is where everybody's love and light, love and light, love and light, but there's really not a substance. There's not a feeling that goes really deep. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, the love and light. Yeah.
Not to poo-poo it, but
no. Like,
it's not been fired in the kiln, I guess you'd say.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Like, how how would you contrast that with to really show people, this has really been on my mind with your story, is the love in your heart, living by your heart? Is that what or really just how does the heart come in a more love and light kind, more than just saying love and light?
It is never my love. My love is tiny.
Wow.
Impatiently, has such a low capacity to me. So what people feel isn't me. It's that love that they feel.
Source energy
and
love.
It's that tried and true love. It's that love that's been fired in the kiln. It's the love that's surrendered to love, to let it find its refinement through this life. And that's another important piece of surrender.
Refinement through this life.
Don't make me repeat it because it comes
yeah.
But
it's just, she's got the spirit just moving through now.
Well, that's because if it's needed, then it's said. So I never have to think or worry. If I think or worry, I'm just in the way. So I need to get out of the way. And I've been doing this for 36 years, since the height of that experience. So I can just trust it. I trust it. In the beginning, and some people might feel it, just can't harness it. The best way I can harness it with my brain is poetry, because I need something that's can stretch and be seen in a million different ways, and be interpreted through your own heart. That's the best way, I think, to be received, and being open, being surrendered, and trusting. And your desire is your desire pure? What is pure? It means I'm just giving up, and I want to receive that love. Have you been in that state of collapse? Some people get it like when they have a fever. When you have a fever, there's nothing you can do about it.
You feel a little helpless.
COVID years, I'm gonna die. That's what happens to a lot of people. They get in that stage, and that helps to facilitate a surrender. Because then they start to have a vision, or maybe they have nightmares. Whatever they have is kind of what's there, and what they're going through cleaning and taking a look at. It's like that. Whatever they have is kind of what's there, and what they're going through cleaning and taking a look at. It's like that inner.
Work, consume. When you get sick, right, you have no choice but to lay on the couch, and that could be a whole another session on the People's Awakening show here today.
And there's no way to get comfortable, and so a lot of people, there have been some people that have awakened and have come to me to help, and my job, or like every time that we have that loss, loss is really important in your journey, because whatever you think you have, you're gonna lose. Saturn, just losing and losing and losing and losing. But in that process, you're refining and refining and refining, and you're finding out the epitome of the diamond that you are and how you shine. You truly do. And
That's
so now
beautiful.
You're reflecting everything that is in the world. And you want to do that. You know what that does, and it brings joy to other people, love to other people. It may stir them up sometimes because they don't want to see what you're reflecting to them. Have you ever had that happen?
Oh, yes, a lot. Where, has anyone else had that happen too, where you're reflecting the love? And sometimes people just don't want that. They don't want to see the love. They're not ready to accept it, right?
No.
Do you have an example of that? Or
They'll push you away, or they'll, I had something happen at work where they sort of plotted against, and I think you didn't do this right, or something. It's like, is there a way we can make you
oh my
not
gosh,
shine?
That was the story of my life in the corporate world.
How to make you
corporate world.
How to make you not.
And they would be so bad. Yeah, always so bad. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget. I'll tell a quick story. We're sidetracking here, right? I was in sales, right? So my manager went on a road trip with me, and I had been doing sales. It was like top sales And it's not like I can't take criticism, because that was
for a while, and she just had this belly laugh. She's still very free spirit, and but she would laugh, and you'd hear her all the way from the front. This meeting, she was telling me like this. She said, "Yeah, so and so said, is there a way your laughing is really loud, and everyone can hear it across the store. As an employee, you need to like tone your laugh down." The lady later in the meeting, and she hugged her and she said, "I love you." She said, "You're the laugh police." She just hugged her, the lady didn't know what to say, and it's never brought up again. Because you see the world for that. You just, this is it's a little, I mean, but nothing else to say, because, it's ironical.
Yeah. Is there anything else you right? Oh, that's really a good point to think, like,
Are you the love police? My life is that I listen very carefully when I move about people. I'm very aware. I don't love bomb them. In the beginning, sometimes you feel like you just want to tell the whole world that you're in love, or you fell into a great love, and but then you learn about how people react to that, and so you learn to be respectful, of where they're at.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the process of what you're learning, it's just going to be what they need anyway, because love will dole out what they need and what they don't need. That's still another layer of surrender. What does this person need in love? Maybe they need just to be listened to, not love bombed. So you start to refine your movements and align them with the divine movements as an instrument.
That's interesting that you say that. Like, it's almost like you're living in 100% service to others.
Yeah.
Because you're not really worried about your needs in that point, because how does that work?
Well, for me, there's still attachment because I have my kids. I'm really attached to my kids and grandkids, and I'm just like any other mom and grandma, and I want the best for them, and I want to share my grandmotherly wisdom or things that I do in particular, and it brings me joy, and kids are a great reflection of surrender into joy. They're like, let's go.
Yeah.
But that attachment is not easy, is still there for me, so that I suffer. But when I suffer, I realize and learn from my suffering. Do I need to let go here? Why do I need to let go a little bit? Is it something that the parents need to address and not me? So you don't get by, you don't get stuck and hung up on, this is, I'm right and they're wrong. And if you do, it doesn't last long. Somebody that's awake, I think one of the indicators is that they may not hold on to things as long.
Right.
Years, or, or they can temper it.
Yeah.
Understanding.
I think like during the pandemic, a lot of things came up, and a lot of us, I think, have, there were people that weren't too happy with me and my choices of, for example, not just my for example, you know what, because I let it go. Hurtful, he let me, that he didn't want anything to do with me during that time. And for me to let go all the hurt that I had from my dad, like rejecting me, and he abandoned me like as an adult, but about 15 years before, he left the family to live with someone else in Canada, and kind of like that was a whole process I had to go through too. But it was a process of forgiving and letting go, and because I have that level of awakening or I don't know if you call it a level or whatever, but I have that love in my heart to say, okay, we're all one. We're all one. We're all from that same energy, expressing it differently. And he's doing the best he can. And he's doing the best he can. And the fact that, for 3 years of not, I welcome that. That's just an example of like the forgiveness, and we're able to let go and still love and not hold on. And I always say this, forgiveness is for you. It's not for anyone else but you, because, whoever hurt you or impacted you, they're going about their day, and maybe they feel bad at one point or another, but, if you're sitting there stewing with that heart like that, really holds you back, I think, from feeling and experiencing the love, the God love, and the awakenings and the downloads.
And I definitely experienced people in a dream time. I'm still working, servicing in dream.
Oh, yes.
And I'm still like myself in dream time. And I'm still like myself in dream time. And being careful with what person I'm dealing with, and got to get everything in order.
Interesting. I will have it until it's understood.
Yes. So what that shows me is that each person will have what until it's understood. Even if they passed over, in this case, it looks like there's some part of him or his spirit may have happened that he thought, and he didn't quite understand what it was that led to his cancer. What was it that created disease within his body? What was it that led his life to end in this type of disease?
In this type of way.
What are we talking about earlier? What are we learning from this experience? If I'm having headaches, why am I having headaches? We, start to look at it rather than Band-Aid it, but say, is there something deeper within me that's not being expressed, that's being repressed, that's not understood, that's not forgiven? Contemplation is big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Contemplation and asking all the questions. And like you said, not just trying to Band-Aid it or take a pill to make it go away. We see so many people, like even kids nowadays. This.
Yeah. I think good doctors should do that too. Some of them do,
Yeah.
What's going on in your environment. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked a lot about that when she was studying death, death and dying.
Yeah.
And it was really important for her to know the whole environment, like what the house looked like. And it said a lot about a person when she was working with them when they were in the grieving process.
Oh, what the house looked like? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because you can tell when you walk into somebody's house. First of all, what are you going to feel? What's the energy feel like?
Yes.
What pictures are on the wall? Everything is saying something about you, what you wear. And that's another part of awakening. If people start to wake up, they may have a sense of, I kind of know that person, or know about them, or know how they are, yet they never really said anything to you.
Yes.
That there's something. Even like my young daughter, who's 27, has been saying that. She's like, I with my friends, she said, I happen
Yeah.
and she doesn't feel like she fits in, but luckily raising up people and encouraging young people that this is a beautiful thing that you experience and feel, and though it may not resonate with your friends, just let's explore.
Yeah,
for
let's
sure. Explore and just take note of that and see, how does that feel to you? How does that do you want to keep this, you know, is this an important thing to you? How does it, is it valuable? How do you value it? How does it translate into your life?
Yeah, asking questions, keep asking, and contemplating was a thing we think of.
And community is important, like a sangha, so this way people have a chance to be with others that are like that, or they hear other people say, hey, you know, I've been noticing this about myself, or I feel like more loving, or I feel more joy, or I feel like a little worried because I'm not hanging on to things like I used to with something happening. There's so many indicators. And if we can nourish that, even like by what we're doing in this live event, where we can say, it's okay, you know, it's okay, and if you're still moving through your life and you're able to focus and you're getting some good reflections back, then you're all right.
I love that.
Take the ride.
And I think that's a perfect way to end this segment, really, is right there. And thanks everyone for who joined today, and thank you, Jane Anderson Ross.
Thank you.
Yep, you can find JaneAndersonRoss.com and take a look at her blog and the information that she has, and feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining. Have a great day.